Did Shaykh Fadhlalla do the sound check?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hello, hello, hello.
Salam, salam, Shaykh.
Wonderful.
Except the one and only who is here, there, everywhere.
Salam alaikum.
Oh.
Rahim. Welcome everybody to another Shaykh Fadhlalla Haeri Foundation broadcast. Today we have a very special program because of the specialness of this time. It's on fasting, Ramadan, and the Noble Quran. We have 3 sessions. Today is the first of them. The next will be on the 24th, and the third one will be on the 8th of May. And so these are 3 sessions with 3 wise men, inshallah. Today, Adnan al-Adnani will be leading us in conversation with Shaykh Fadhlalla Haeri and Shaykh Saadi. So observant Muslims are well into the first week of fasting. However, you have met the beginning of this time, committed to fasting and withholding, perhaps with relief, excitement, or trepidation. There is no doubt that it is an opportunity to purify our hearts and minds from all the rubbish we have accumulated. We are taught that fasting is not from food and drink alone, but also from negative thoughts and speech. And for those practicing scrupulous levels of mindfulness and awareness, fasting is also about seeing only the one connecting force behind everything. That is, to use Shaykh Fadhlalla's terminology, to see the seamless connectedness between the inner and the outer, the zahir and the batin. Today's exploration of the verses of the Quran that touch upon fasting will help us, no doubt, engage more meaningfully with the fast of Islam and this blessed month in which the Quran was revealed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Bismillah.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Salam alaikum. Thank you, Muna, for the introduction. Indeed, in this blessed month of Ramadan, the month of fasting, I mean, we try in this sessions is to kind of give an overview as much as possible in breadth and depth of the topic on its widest perspective. So indeed that fasting, abstention, or self-restraint, that's the root of the word Sawm, seems to be, it's been part of the human story from the beginning. So, and indeed in the Quran, what it starts with is Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu kutiba alaykum as-siyam kama kutiba ala alladhina min qablikum la'allakum tattaqun. Says, O you faithful, the fast is ordained upon you as it was ordained upon those who came before you. Perhaps you will have reverence. So indeed, it confirms that the fast is part of the human story and history in many various diverse means, in various cultures or civilizations. It appears in their practices. So maybe to begin with is to kind of have a look at that story and historically, how as much as possible from both the kind of the general human perspective, human story, and specifically then from the perspective of the Abrahamic traditions before we go into the perspective of the Islamic tradition. So Shaykh Fadhlalla, so this link of fasting and the human being is ancient. It's from the beginning. I mean, why is that? What's the I guess the first human beings discovered some benefit there. Is that right?
It's an evolutionary process, Dr. Adnan, as you know. It began from one little cell that in a miraculous way began to be aware of itself and tried to preserve life. And that is the obsession with truth as manifesting in life. So we are all obsessed with life. And we evolved over billions of years in higher and higher and higher awareness. The arc of the evolutionary light and lights and reflections has grown to such a point whereby we had to now nurse more the innermost, the inner light, and groom the outer manifestations of self-care, body care, mind care, cultural care, all of the other things. So there came a point, maybe 50, 100, 200,000 years ago, where the people who wanted to awaken to what is next, what is after leaving the body, after death, as to how can I be prepared for a smooth transition. That's all what we want. Our love for security, our love for future, or the right destiny is to be prepared joyfully, contentedly, celebratory to leave the body and the mind. So part of that is the awareness as to what are we doing to sustain life. And that is drinking, eating, whatever we put in our mouth. The more we are aware of what we are doing, why are we doing it? Do we have the authority and permission for that? The more we are allowing the nur of the ruh to lead us and guide us into the eternal presence, which is there everywhere at all times. So it is part of the completion of the program of human enlightened presence, interaction with the outer world and the inner world within ourselves. So it is a most wonderful crowning, if you like, of this glorious passage of life on this earth, as from its very basic sentience to it caring for itself, for it being able to look after and concern itself with the obsession itself, and that is life itself, and that is the divine light itself, and that is Allah. So we are all obsessed, whether we know it or not or admit it. But now, when it becomes more and more conscious, so my senses and my inner senses are coordinated in that, then I am nearing the completion of my own story with some, if you like, of my own duty, responsibility, and will. Then one is ready to stay longer, stay shorter. Then you have, if you like, all of the presence and the light of the presence in the moment itself. So you have no regrets back and forth. You won't later on have guilt. You will not later on have sorrow or fear. You're present. And presence is eternal. And your ruh, your soul, is eternal. So you have unified in a practical, in an intrinsic, in a subtle way, as well as in a gross way. What am I doing? Why am I putting this in my mouth? How did my hand go up and take it and put it in my mouth? With what authority? Where is the legitimacy of it? So it was one of the most amazing declarations that Psalm was like one of the sealing final, if you like, enactments from the unseen upon the human journey.
Indeed, Shaykh. I mean, it's part of the. I mean, in the Quran, it really almost that command or the prohibition or setting the limit started with Adam himself, as in the prohibition from eating or approaching the tree and eating from it. In a sense, that is that first. In the Quran, that's where we see the first command in relation to human beings, and it's like the barzakh, the boundary between unity and duality, and it's represented by an act of eating, and then it all goes down all the way to the and then it's explicitly mentioned in the Abrahamic traditions. And how is that in the Sheikh Saadi?
Bismillah. Yes, that's right. I looked up the word. I started with the word itself, Psalm, and looked up its earlier forms. in the Semitic languages, particularly Hebrew and Aramaic. And as you know, we've talked about before, this whole stream of languages comes out of a nomadic consciousness. The earlier form of Saum in Hebrew is Saum. It sounds virtually identical, but the first letter is pronounced a little differently, and it's the same in Aramaic. And the root sa means to carry something with force towards a boundary or through a limit. So you could say it's like breaking out of the shackles of the body or of material substance, this sa root. And so it becomes also the root of the word to be very thirsty, to be dried out inside. We have that used in one of Jesus's Beatitudes, yet Prophet Isa's Beatitudes, de kafnein what sane. So to be, you could see, when a person becomes dried out, it's usually due to dryness, the sun. There could be an inner radiance that also is taken on by the person. It's interesting also when I was looking at this that the word to be hungry in the older Semitic languages is related to the beautiful name, the Asma al-Husna, al-Kafi. So it has to do with the kaf root. Now this, so there was a sense of enoughness in these earlier cultures. How? Well, because they were surrounded already by a sense of impermanence. Often people were hungry. Often people were thirsty. And then they noticed the effects. And then, as Shaykh Fadhlalla says, there was also a development, you could say a self-reflexive part of the consciousness, a self-consciousness that comes with the Adamic, where a person voluntarily, with will, with intention, goes into these states for the effect of breaking the bounds and getting the nafs, the small self, closer to the ruh, the part of us that's always connected to the one. So sort of to break through into that connection, to make that connection more clearly. And so this then would be the earlier derivation of the word sa'aum, which would mean to, with force, through the limits of time and space, you could say, what we see or what we believe to be so-called real, the dunya, in order to connect us to our root, aum, which would be the derivation of that root in the ancient Semitic alphabet. So to connect through, break through towards our real root, our mother, you could say. You could say the mother of all, father, mother. It's phrased different ways in the older languages. So, but really to root ourselves in soul, in ruh, rather than in nafs. So that's. It's interesting also that our word fast, as is contained in the book on fasting by Shaykh Fadhlalla, also means to fasten onto something, to hold firmly, to really, as we'd say in colloquial English, really go for something. And so later it's also used to mean to go quickly, but originally just meant to be really, okay, I'm really focused. I'm going to go firmly towards this particular goal. And so the ancient Semitics reinforced that. And I would say it went from this involuntary sense of hunger to a voluntary sense of hungering. But it doesn't mean that the earlier sense that people had of being hungry at certain times of the year was less spiritual than what we have. It's just that they already realized they were embedded in an impermanent reality, and there was a great mystery surrounding them. And this is Allah. This is whatever you want to call it. Their secular and religious was not so separate as ours is today. Their spiritual life and you could say their contemporary, their practical life was intertwined in a way that is really difficult for us to imagine. So that's whatever spice I have for the ongoing soup here. And I'll pass it back to you, Dr. Adnan.
Thank you, Shaykh. Thank you. Indeed, as you said, it's such a wide and deep topic. And indeed, in the Quran, it's continuously that seamless connections between the earthly and heavenly is emphasized. So we have the aspect of time and space and the states of the human being and the spiritual reality. So indeed, in the next verse, it continues. It says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So here's the link, the first link between the month or and the Quran itself with the time of fasting. It says, شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان. That's the first part. He said, the month of Ramadan, wherein the Quran was sent down to be a guidance to the people, and there's a clear signs of the guidance and the salvation. So here we have the time in the time-space reading of the Quran. شهر Ramadan is the month of Ramadan. But if you look at the root meanings, we'll see a bit more depth. So shahr, the root of shahr means to be known, to make known, to manifest. Mashhur is famous. So clearly that's refers to the domain of the scene. That's the domain of known. And Ramadan, the word means, the root means is a large land that is parched with the intense heat and dryness. So here implies again that as you mentioned, there's an intense state of kind of yearning coming from that kind of the earthly aspect of things. So we have the known and the link between what is known, what is manifest, to a state of continuous yearning. And he says, الذي أنزل فيه القرآن. So it is, that although the month of Ramadan is what the Quran is saying, but then we can see that he tries to link us to the advent of the Quran, which is, of course, Quran, the root word is also means to gather. And that's the completion of all these aspects are the guidance for a human being. So Shaykh Fadhlalla, how is we can see that how these roots words links. So he wants to connect us, that state of abstention and self-restraint with the descent of the Quran itself. That is how great this prescription is.
Sheikh Saadi also will give us much more glorious fireworks as to how these letters, in a most amazing way, it's like one level of beauty hidden within another. And if you go to the letters of Ramadan, it has in it about 9 different echoes, one of which is marada, the same 3 letters. It's like marada is to be sick. Who is sick? What is this? Sickness is for the ego, sickness for the evolving creature, the animal, to recognize that its reality, its beginning and its end is the ruh, and that is timeless. Min amri Rabbi. It's nothing. So the animal has to now be groomed by its own willingness in order for it to realize that in truth, there is only that ultimate grace upon grace emanating from the source of it all. So we need to make the effort. The inner side has already been done. Kun, before time, before space, the Big Bang, or whatever name you like to give it. Everything had happened. But now it has to be completed by will, because this entity, which has evolved over billions of years, has all the amazing faculties of the outer senses, backed up and illumined by the inner senses. So now it is the question of sifting the light and the shadows through will. So I must have will through higher intelligence, that I will that outwardly I know that I am a ruh. Inwardly, I am a ruh. What did I know? What did I know before I was born? What will I know after I leave the body? So the inner has always been absolutely there, but the outer needs a bit of consent in a way, because as though the human being or the human ruh has got this amazing divine, if you like, imprint that it needs to give its consent that no, now I will discover that really the animal in me is minor. As a 6 months, 1 year, 5 year, it was major. It was all my ego. So I wanted now scream. Later on, society, community, grooming helps me. By the age I'm maturing, no, you can't do that. You have to be polite, you have to be correct, you have to be kind, etc., etc. It's not only your ego. So an element of personal will or acceptance of it, Islam, acceptance that I emerged from these two different sources, the heavens and the earth, the material, chemical, physical, and the lights of the lights, the most mysterious, which has given a sentiency. Now, by will, by desire, by hope, by prayers, by any means possible, I now want to unify with that which is the source of life in me, and life continues in me after I leave the body and the mind. So it needs, look at the courtesy of the essence. Look at Allah's courtesy. Source of all courtesy and adab is from that. So there is a certain courtesy. You have now been given a certain will. You can move, you can sit, you can talk, you can keep quiet, you can be polite, you can be happy, miserable. So as a courtesy, so I have to give consent. I'm now intending to fast in order to show my ruh, in order to show the creative center in me, how dependent I am on the outer physical, material, chemical, foods, and all of the other things. So the abstention is to glorify the needs and the human intention to unify. It is the most glorious celebratory. That's why also people go through the social motions of congratulating. But if you ask anybody, why? I'm apprehensive. I'm nervous. Few weeks or 2-3 weeks before Ramadan, most people are nervous. And that's why they start accumulating food and things. I will promising, and then you find that you won't consume it because we're anxious. What is the anxiety? It's about life. The anxiety is about being obsessed, each one of us, with life itself. So I'm a bit concerned. How will I survive? Where we are here is wonderful. It's almost 12 hours by 12 hours. But what about if you are in the northern climes or in the middle of the heat, somewhere that you have to work in order to survive? So the issue is magnificent one in that by will, by personal, if you like, intention, I won't put anything in my mouth unless it is the right, it's allowed, the right time, and the right way, or whatever. So that my awareness, because food is a very important thing in our life, and many of subtle, if you like, sicknesses are due to fear of lack of food or whatever. So here I am delegating my affairs to a higher consciousness in me. That aware, you can't do that. No, it's not time. So you set the boundaries because the ruh is boundless. The nafs has to be bounded, has to be groomed, has to be taught. And for that, you need also the ambience. You need people around you who have the same acceptance that we are here in a journey. The ruh is the origin, is the source, is where life emanates, but the reflection of it, the nafs, is very important to show you the magnificence of the lights. So the darkness here is important to show us where the light is and the nature of that light, which is cosmic. It cannot be فارجع البصر هل ترى من فطور. Look back, do you find any fault? Can you improve on that? So for many millions of years, we were just drifting, evolving into an earthly being that is able now to, by will and hope and work, to discover its heavenly origin and the heavenly prevalence in every situation. Matter is the same. It's an energy again, frozen for a little while. So as you return to Tawheed by experience, by going through the highest level of intelligence in your own mind until you are beyond intoxication, until you have been through the magnificent, beautiful gardens of Alastu bi Rabbikum. Wherever you turn, whatever you have seen is declaring it. So there's nothing left. Now, you and I, and in our day-to-day, in our minute-to-minute, in our rest, in our sleep, in our eating, it has to be dedicated to Bismillah, Bismillah, Bismillah. So it becomes the most magical, miraculous journey, rather than that based on fear and sorrow, regrets and forgetfulness, and sleepwalkers like most people are. So that is why suffering, because we are not fully, totally aware and accountable, and we are not honest. And how can you be honest if you don't have courage? You want to please so many different people, so many different, if you like, opposing possibly currents. It's not possible. Please the one and only Master, whose light gives you life in you. Then you do not have to lie to this and lie to that. You are as you are. You didn't know where you were going to be born, how. You don't know when you're going to leave your body. So if you're ready for all of this, then you're present. The more present you are, the more you are attuned with the eternal Ruh in you.
Thank you, Shaykhna. Indeed, it's the ultimate mercy and honor upon the human self is to have that exposure to that light, and as the verse confirms that that state of ramad, of yearning, of intense yearning, is exposed to that both dimensions of the Quranic light. So we have the Quran and the Furqan. So the Quran in its kind of ultimate gathered state of pure light, and the Furqan in its spectrum of diverse verses. So, and then what's interesting, I'll come to Shaykh Sa'di, and as it continues in the next in the verse, and here again it links another root meaning. It says, فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْهُ. So he's linking now that, so let those who are present or witness the month fast it. So we have the link between the root of shahr, as we mentioned, to do with to be known, and shahida, which is to witness. So in a sense, he's linking the act of fasting to that, to witnessing and knowledge. And it's like alam al-shahada and alam al-ghayb, the unseen with the seen, through this witnessing of the shahr, of the scene, and then here where the fast comes into its power. So Shaykh Sa'di, I mean, we have so many roots here, whether shahr or Ramadan, or there's so much depth here. Then on to you. So.
Well, here's the little bit I can add. This root of shar is, as you mentioned, Dr. Adnan, very important. And as Shaykh Fadhlalla also mentioned, it's used repeatedly in Aramaic, switching to that language, in the stories and sayings of Jesus, Prophet Isa, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He refers frequently to ruha dishrara, and that later comes into the Arabic word beshara. But ruha dishrara would be the breath. It's a breath of showing you the right way, the right path. So it's a specific knowing as it's used earlier is the way he's using it. And then he also says, if we connect our small self, if we reconnect our small self, remember where it came from in the larger self, which is what he calls inna inna. It's this strange formula he uses, inna inna, which is usually translated I am. That will show you the urha, which is the illuminated path, the shraddha, the right direction to go. So in this case, shraddha as right direction, and the khay, which is basically, again, the same word as Arabic, the life energy to travel that path. So that was later, of course, interpreted theologically by various later Christian traditions as referring to Jesus specifically, but he's not doing that in his language. He's not referring to himself personally. He actually never does that, or very seldom does that. So I am the way, the truth, and the life then becomes connecting nafs to ruha, or reconnecting it, opens a path ahead of us, an illuminated path, shows us the right direction to go when we come to choices, and allows us the energy to travel. And he uses that in a number of different places, including when he's about to leave and his disciples are all worried, oh, what are we going to do without you, blah, 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 all this. And he says, well, I'm going to send you Ruha de Sharada, and that will show you the right way. And where I was coming to from this is, okay, well then finally, after he leaves, 40 days after or so, then they all fast, they get together in a room, which is again this communal gathering, and then, I don't mean to be disrespectful, they fast, they get together in the room, and then what happens? Well, the light appears to them, the light above each of their heads, this flame that appears, and all of a sudden they can understand everyone who's wandering around the town and the different languages they're speaking. Even though they don't speak their languages, they understand the language of their heart. So this is, you could say, this is this shad, and it's also then finally they witness. They have the shahid. They finally feel that sense of guidance, which is the opening to the shah with the hid, which is the same root, of course, that we have in al-hadi. So they have that. They finally, some of them anyway, at least got it. They got that sense of the connection that Prophet Isa was trying to leave with them, and they weren't, how would we say, hanging on to his physical being as the source of that, which he warned them against time and time again. At least in Aramaic he did, although they translate most of those parts inaccurately, or they just drop them out in most translations of the New Testament. So I'll stop there and pass back over. I have more from Jesus, but we can do some of that later and next time or whatever.
Okay, thank you, Shaykh. Indeed, I mean, it's, if we look at it really as this human journey is really incredible, from whether it's from the darkness to light, or from childishness to wholesomeness to ripening and to adulthood. So, and even the Quran recognizes that people are at different degrees. That's why he continues to say that وَمَنْ كَانَ مَرِيضًا أَوْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ فَعِدَّةٌ مِنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرٍ. So here, again, the root marada comes in. As Shaykh Fadhlalla mentioned, that whoever is sick or traveling, that he can kind of complete it in another way. The important here, it emphasizes the to complete. So although people are at different degrees on this journey, and they might not be able to do this abstention in so many different ways, whether it's food or drink or other means, but certainly that the emphasis is the merciful says it's about completion. So Allah yuridu Allahu bikum al-yusr wa la yuridu bikum al-usr. Allah desires for you ease and not difficulty. So there's all kinds of ways to meet that fast, whether it's different abilities and different And he continues, وَلِتُكْمِلُوا الْعِدَّةَ وَتَكَبَّرُوا اللَّهُ عَلَى مَا هَدَاكُمْ وَلَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ. So, and that you fulfill the number and magnify God that He has guided you, and happily you be thankful. So the idea of the deen, the path, the prescription is about ease. So the self is not in too much distress, I would say. So there's aspect of restraint, limitation, but also it's a path of ease towards that completion. Shaykh Fadhlalla, what do you?
As you know, the whole story, purpose, direction, our responsibility, our duty is to flow, accept the natural flow in life, which is لِيُخْرِجُكُم مِّنَ الظُّلُمَاتِ إِلَى النُّورِ. So as we come out from the numerous levels of darknesses, disconnection, towards the ultimate connection where there is no separation. وَهُوَ مَعَكُمْ أَيْنَمَا كُنْتُمْ. So we are given this tiny little license to act, most of the time foolishly also. That's why we think I can do anything. I'm free. It's human right. But what is human duty? If it's only human right, then the whole thing is out of balance. And that's where we are. So where is my duty? Where is my responsibility? Where is my honesty? And so on. So dhulumat. We are given a number of samples of these dhulumat, one of which was dhulumat in the womb. And the Quran defines especially 3 levels of dhulumat in the womb. But then we come out into the earthly womb. Here we are. Darkness upon darkness upon darkness. Show me one person who knows for sure what will happen tomorrow. Not tomorrow, in an hour. Not in an hour, next breath. Who knows? It's arrogance. We're all hanging on all of these minerals, all these materials, all of these substances. The subtlest of this is air. So we have to be in every way reminded that the so-called I contains, connects with, relies upon so many earthly situations and things. As for the heavenly, I don't have a clue. What are all these lights and radiations and all of the things that produce this amazing, most glorious faculty called life? So the more we dwell upon this, the more we know that I do have a little duty to get out of darkness, the unknown, which requires a lot of courage. We try to cover things up. No, I'm not that. I'm not. Everybody tries to justify how good they are. It's only a minor reflection of the goodness of the Ruh itself. You're not good. You're not bad. You're just a cover-up. You're just a connector of the infinite, the Ruh, with the finite, the earth. So we're in the middle, ummatan wasata. We have to also celebrate that what we know is very little, and we can care and share, but illumination comes from the light which encompasses the entire cosmos. And the essence of that light is encompassed in the arwah, in my soul. That's why it's a great mystery, you see. That's why the angels, in a way, were surprised that this entity, the Adamic reality, came about. They said, but this entity now, it has a touch of independence, it can cause havoc. But then the response to that is that no, but also they are endowed with love of the great attributes, which are all virtues, generosity, kindness, all of the other good attributes that helps us to speed up the process of coming out of darknesses. And as the Prophet ﷺ teaches us, if there is something that you know clear, you do it. And if it is the reverse, it's not allowed, not correct, not in the right place, not in the right season, don't do it. And in between, be cautious. Taqwa. Because we don't want to suffer. Nobody wants to suffer. And yet suffering is the most prevalent quality nowadays in the whole of the world. Suffering stress, anxiety, fear, all the time. What is there left then for you to participate in the awakening to the light before you were born, to the light after you die, to the ever-present light in its magnificent, infinite varieties? So we have no option other than allow the flow, and that is Islam. Accept it, that there is a clear direction and an arc in the rise of consciousness. And you and I and he and she are all alive because of consciousness. So we have to be correct, the right courtesy, the right adab, the right attention, the right respect, the right reverence for consciousness. That's all what there is. It's infinite and then becomes finite once it has an identity. And once it returns back to reality, then the identity is lost and it's pure light. You can't discern it. It can't be more magnificent. It can't be more awesome. How can people not be struck by this treasure which is beyond measure and be in reverence of it all the time? And then a bit of a restriction, like in fasting or in not doing whatever, or in what time is it, where is it, who are they, can I, what sort of, etc. To be appropriate. Appropriateness means connection. We are obsessed with connection. And part of that connection is continuation, ongoing connection. These are the basic parameters. Once we understand the sketch of the basics of life, then we'll not bump all the time into mistakes and into this and that. You are cautious. You won't lift your foot unless it's Bismillah. It doesn't mean you become too ponderous and too pompous. On the contrary, you are freed from fear of failures and things. Success is by Allah, failure by being distracted from presence.
And indeed, I mean, the Quran confirms that the journey has difficulties. We are in constant kind of uncertainties and also doubts. Therefore, I mean, this amazing ayah and just the next one, he says, وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي عَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِ إِذَا دَعَانِ فَلْيَسْتَجِيبُوا لِي وَلْيُؤْمِنُوا بِي لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْشُدُونَ. And when my servants ask you concerning me, indeed I am near. I respond to the invocation of the supplicant when he calls upon me. So let them respond to me and trust in me that they might be rightly guided. And that's ultimately there's nothing more magnificent than this, that he is the Al-Qarib. So what more can we want? And it's only through that, so all these veils of self, of otherness, of duality, that we are distracted. And Sheikh Saadi, I don't know whether they the qurb, that linking again the fasting to the name Al-Qarib, does that make sense?
It makes sense if I use a non-traditional rendering of Al-Qarib, that the Qar is carving out a space for light. This sound in the Old Semitics, I'm rendering this sort of letter by letter, or primordial root by primordial root, the carving out of Ar, which would be the light. And what does it bring us? Ib. It brings us, we're recreated. Ab has to do with things are being birthed, things are being created, things are being born. So a new world is born around us by carving out space for the light, you could say. Incredible. And so how much closer can we be than to a world that is illuminated by this divine light? I mean, this takes me back to, again, a non-traditional rendering of the word Ramadan itself from the primary particle roots in Semitics. Ra, which is always to do with radiance, light, like in the Egyptian so-called God, Ra. So the light, the sight, the fat, seeing is clear. We see clearly through Ma. Well, what is Ma? Ma, as we find it, is really a particle that means it's either something or nothing. It's everything or nothing. And that's the way it really comes into Arabic too, in that it can mean like nothing, or it can mean, you could say that the things are manifesting in this very exterior way, so that what we think is solid and real is really a very plastic reality. It's just stuff. It's just stuff. And so when we see clearly through it, then where are we? Well, then we have done, which is this, you could say, all of the ancient roots of dan or deen, or the daleth and the nun in the ancient Semitics, natural abundance, but also a clear transaction with life, as we have it in the word deen, or the clear ability to make a judgment, as Shaykh Fadhlalla was saying. The inner breathing of Bismillah, it just relieves us from responsibility. We don't need to make a judgment. The judgment is made. We feel it in our breath. We feel it in our on the inner side, without reference necessarily to what appears to be. So this Ramadan, seeing through stuffness itself to a natural abundance. And it's fabulous. As I was reflecting on it, it's like this beautiful short surah, Al-Qatar, Ina Tina Al-Qatar. This natural abundance is already yours. So what? So sacrifice a little. That comes with the package. And then your enemy, that is the one that's keeping you separate, that's like me, that's like the nafs, that will be cut off, at least for a time. So this is what our prayer is, at least, I hope my prayer is during Ramadan, that I get some break from this thing a bit.
Indeed, I mean, as you said, it is the seeing through the world of the senses, the world of solidity, of forms, in order to see the meaning behind them. So it's that transcendent aspect of abstention from the outer and forms, and seeing the meaning behind them. And that's, again, a doorway to the ultimate light, which is beyond any self, beyond self. There's only the one and only. So in the Quran also, there are very many different ways that it's not only, especially mentioned in many stories relating to the prophets, that the Sawm, that abstention, and takes on many forms. Ultimately, it's beyond the sensory, beyond eating and drinking. And as we say, I mean, it starts from the Adamic prohibition of eating from the tree. That means that the consuming self. So looking at the consuming self, the experiential self, where all experiences is to do with duality. All experiences is in the domain of time and space. And then the abstention is trying to transcend, or going higher and higher, to see the reality of the أينما تولوا فثم وجه الله. Wherever you turn, there is the face of God. So in many other places in the Quran, that the Sawm is mentioned in, for example, in the story of Maryam alayhi salam, where she is really in this impossible situation of giving birth. And she says, فكلي واشربي وقري عينا فأما ترين من البشر أحدا فقولي إني نذرت للرحمن صوما فلم أكلم اليوم إنسيا. Eat therefore and drink and be comforted, and if you should see any mortal, say, I have vowed to the All-Merciful a fast, and today I will not speak to any human. And here again, there's a prescription of almost silence. I mean, one of the meaning again of Sama in relation to some things. There's an expression, Samat al-ma or Samat al-shams. meaning to be still. Water, when it's stillness, is Sawm, and the sun in the middle of the sky when it's still is also Sawm. So there is aspect of stillness that's been given to this really impossible situation where she's in danger of being attacked, and there are many other places where there's a link between this abstention that links the aspect of duality and unity. In other places in the Quran, I was looking in where this akl and shurb, the eat and drink in its widest context, appears. I mean, here in the surah in relation to the story of Dawood, and where they were appointing a king called Talut. He said, فلما فصل طالوت بالجنود قال إن الله مبتليكم بنهر فمن شرب منه فليس مني ومن لم يطعمه فإنه مني إلا من اخترف غرفة بيده. So he says, and when I think the translation of Talut in the soul went forth with his soldier, he said, indeed, Allah will be testing you with a river. So whoever drinks from it is not from me, and whoever does not taste it is indeed of me, except one who takes from it the hollow of his hand. So they're only allowed like a handful to drink with. Anything more would be excess. So here is where the link between, in a sense, one is enough. Again, here is what is enough. All links back to there's the multiplicity and the oneness in a different sense. Here's the fasting is another form of fasting, which is abstention for even as much as even for a little time, for a certain occasions that has to be in Allah, laysa Allahu bikafin abdeh. There is only the one. And anything else is all these are allusions to the oneness, and we see that also in the story of Musa alayhi salam with when the people effectively we لن نصبر على طعام واحد. They say we cannot be patient with one form of food, and he tells them, well, go to the city and you'll find all that. Again, here's that description of these people who are distracted, always looking for the next, always looking for more and more, and they say, well, we cannot have this, again, they can we would not have patience with the one, although this was the ultimate blessing for them, is really the knowledge of the one. So in one sense, they say we can't have one, and then the next moment they say, okay, please make us a god like these people who are. So again, there seems to be this struggle between unity and multiplicity. That's the state of the nafs that is always distracted, looking for the next experience, the next, without realizing, without the turning of the to the heart, where the realization of oneness, and ultimately that's really the ultimate meaning of abstention. Really, in the Quran is so incredible. It tells it in so many ways. Abstention goes from the outer towards the inner. I mean, what about abstention of mind, the thoughts? Again, the meaning of siyam, meaning that stillness of the mind. The mind that hasn't been distracted naturally will be still. It is that, and then going deeper and deeper into the heart, and such that ultimately there is only the light of the Ruh. I think I have Sheikhna. Anything?
You have summed it all up. My cup is overflowing in every way, but it is not my cup. And then when I know there is no cup and there is no, all of it emanating from the one, returning back to the one. The ultimate Sawm is from seeing otherness. So if I see differentiation, varieties, if I connect them to their origin, then I've been honest. Then I've been loyal, and there's been wafat. And with that wafat, that means other things have died, tawaffa. So we are here in order to complete a little bit of the finality of the whole story. that there was a me, there is a me, by virtue of the real inner light, which is cosmic, beyond me. So all of it is inclusive. Ain al-mafar. You can't run away. You have pain, you have to respond to it because of the obsession with being courteous to life itself. And life wants to continue. So the whole story comes back to the question of now. We love to cram everything in the now. I want to see all the varieties. I want to have all the foods, all the connections, all the sounds, all the music. It's because all what I have is the connecting between me and the infinity, timelessness. So I am obsessed with the now, with the time. Time is value, time is money, time is power, time, until I am at one with the moment. Then I have an inner security of an ongoingness, foreverness. Nothing matters anymore. Then there is none of this manic rush to accumulate more. Because what is there more than the light that is timeless? So it is Akbar. It's not bigger. It is great. It is boundless. Once you have touched that zone of the infinitude within you, then you are connecting the physical, material, chemical aspect of the you and the I with that which is beyond it, with that which is not subject to space and time. If you like, that is the quantum field. Then you have unified. Then you deal with the outer, you deal with the otherness and enjoy it. It's nice because every otherness thinks it is the most favored. Every person thinks they are special. Everybody thinks they are. Otherwise, and it is true because there is a touch of the absolute special, which is your ruh. It's being given to us. Now we need to do a little bit of an effort. Bismillah, Bismillah. Whether it is the constant salat, you have to be aware of the breathing, that how can you forget? And the other things that we do, it becomes a joyful journey from the unknown via knowledge back to the unknown, but now illumined. Finished. So it's done then. So you have performed your duty, your responsibility joyfully. And you know in your own heart of hearts that there is only contentment. Ya ayyatuha an-nafs al-mutma'inna irji'i ila rabbiki radiyatan mardiyah. Mutma'in, you're certain. You've done what you can. It's nothing more. So you have no blame, you have no claim. You're ready to leave the body now. You're ready to stay longer. You're ready to do whatever in order to reduce suffering and darkness. Because that is what Allah promises. لِيُخْرِجُكُم مِّنَ الظُّلُمَاتِ إِلَى النُّورِ. So if you do that, then you're helping evolution in its ultimate way. And we have no option of that. That's why we like people who help and serve and are kind and so on, irrespective. Sometimes being kind also to a situation where you judge it that you may not, it's better not to be. But this is a judgment. And judgment is as good as witnessing it, as shahada. And incidentally, one of the nouns of shahad is honey. So shahad is sweet. It's already done. There's nothing you can add or subtract. You just have to accept it and be in it and enjoy it and share it and celebrate it. And that's it, without too much noise either. Let the inner music lead. It cannot be better. How can we even begin to thank? How can you? We have to, at best, we can celebrate it as we are doing now between ourselves. The same energy that is between us now touches those who truly live by their faith and their iman. يَهْدِيَهُمُ اللَّهُ بِإِيمَانِهِمْ. And because of that inner orientation and focus on the nur in your heart, you will be guided. And sometimes guidance is silence. You can't do anything. Wait, another era, another 1,000 years. What is 5,000 years between friends? What is you have to rush as far as you are concerned. Be revolutionary with yourself, but be evolutionary with the others. They need time. They haven't evolved. They've inherited a lot of garbage. So turn away. no suffering. Allah yuridu bikum al-yusra, as Adnan also reminded us. Allah wants ease for you. كل يعمل على شاكلته. كل ميسر لما خلق له. So it has to flow. And you have to, Bismillah, Bismillah. I am, personally, I can only speak from my heart. Express my delight to be amongst you people. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
MashaAllah. Thank you. Thank you so much, Shaykh Fadhlalla. Thank you, Shaykh Saadi. Thank you, Dr. Adnan, for a most magnificent, pulverizing journey through so many layers, the semiotic, the semantic, the metaphysical layers of Sawm, the haqiqah of Ramadan. What a gift. Thank you for this sharing. And now I think we are all equipped to survive Ramadan without worrying, because as Shaykh Fadhlalla has said, it's that fear itself, that trepidation, is because that we are obsessed with life itself, and that it can be a wonderful journey free of regret and suffering. Subhanallah. And also this way, new ways of thinking about things. Shaykh Saadi, your interpretations of like the letters, just everything has a power and a vibration. I mean, Ramadan, Ra, seeing is clear, Ma, manifesting in an exterior way, and the Dan, or the natural abundance, and also the Deen aspect, the clear, the interaction, the transaction with Allah. Whew, subhanallah. Thank you for showing us how abstention from outer forms is ultimately a doorway to the light, the one light behind everything. Thank you all so much, and we look forward to our next session for more pulverization in this beautiful light. Thank you all. Assalamu alaikum.
Salam, salam. Thank you.